The RPG is the best engineer gadget because it's versatile. This is basically the only engineer gadget that's anywhere useful in the infantry-only modes with no vehicles. And the RPG plus the SMG hipfire bonus on engineer makes it where when there's no vehicles, there's still some reason you could be playing engineer, but it's not very good. The RPG is still the most versatile, and right now you can get 5 RPGs at the start of the game with the anti-vehicle perk. The RPG is decent against infantry, even though the splash damage is not very good. It's great against ground vehicles. It's usable against air vehicles. It's fantastic against light armored vehicles. The projectile velocity is just so high that it actually makes hitting targets with it not an issue, especially moving targets. This is definitely the rocket to learn. If you're only going to learn one rocket, this would be the one to learn. If you're always going to have the same rocket, you only play a couple hours a day at the most, or your engineer is not your main class, the RPG is the rocket to learn right now. It's such a battlefield staple, and vehicles are just so squishy. You can take out a tank with 2 RPGs, and you get 5 of them. It's so effective to sneak around with them. You should really be caring about your positioning and not just firing them straight in front of a tank where they're pointing a gun straight at you, and it's only going to do 200 damage when you hit them. You definitely need to be utilizing the area on the map to get behind them and get your RPGs to deal a critical damage hit, which stops them in their tracks and makes it super easy to take out. They're just so good against the ground vehicles. They have a decent reload time. You can dry fire it from the hip fire. The scope that it has is decent, and you can kind of zoom in on it and get a view from further away if you need it. This thing is so incredibly versatile. It's such a staple to the engineer class. I couldn't not have it won. But honestly, basically in every single situation, there's a launcher that would actually be better. But the reason why the RPG is the only one that I'm going to put in this top tier is because the RPG is actually usable in every situation, and it's pretty good to great in every situation that you need it for, which is against the vehicles. Whereas the other launchers, they're better than the RPG sometimes and way worse other times. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the repair tool. I'm going to put it in this top tier with the RPG for one simple reason. Because you can run at knife speed with it. This might be a bigger deal later in the game when the sledgehammer gets improved or there's other knife type stuff that ruins your knife speed. But this makes it where you don't have to run the knife. And since you're always going to have the repair tool equipped, even in the infantry only modes, this thing is like decent to take out because you can run at knife speed with it. There's totally a versatility aspect to this. But mainly you're just going to be using this to heal vehicles. This thing is such a huge deal. In order to get your tanks to move up, you need repair people behind you. When I'm in a vehicle, I basically almost always want to be an engineer so I can pop out and repair my own vehicle. It's such a huge deal for being able to keep your vehicles alive. They're not going to be able to stay alive without the repair tool. The RPG can kill it in 2 shots, okay? It is ridiculous. The vehicles, especially the air vehicles in this game, are so squishy. The repair tool, it doesn't really work too well on the air vehicles. It's only the transport chopper that you can even use it on. The attack chopper, you kind of have to land out of bounds, exit, and then get back in within 10 seconds. So, like, you're still going to be running the engineer for the repair tool if you're in a vehicle main. Like, if you're a tank main, you're a helicopter pilot, jet main, it's nice to just be able to land and repair. It's such a big deal that you're going to be running this class specifically for this gadget. And you're basically not even going to be doing any infantry other than the repair tool. So this thing is incredibly useful when it's good. And since it's never bad, because it's at worst the knife, I gotta put it in this top tier above the other ones that do have a downside and do have times where they're not very good. But because the engineer is so vehicle focused, obviously the modes without vehicles, don't play engineer. It's not very good, okay? The RPG and the repair tool are like okay in infantry only, but then you're going to be wasting another gadget spot. You're not going to have defibs. You're not going to have extra spotting capabilities. Assault is useless anyway. So you're going to be wanting to run this in vehicle only modes. If you're like playstyle or maps that you play are only vehicle maps, then yeah, engineer might look like the best class. But there's just some maps and modes and playstyles where it's actually just not good at all. So there's reasons to not play engineer. But the repair tool and the RPG combo is the classic Battlefield engineer. And you're going to be wondering why some people around you are engineers and forgetting that they have repair tools when you're in a vehicle that's in critical damage. And you're like, please just add some health to me so I can peek again and take out these enemies so that you don't run in and die. And instead they just keep running in and dying. And I don't know how to get them to repair me. I don't know how. I want proximity chat. I want to be able to tell them that they need to repair me. It's such a huge deal that people aren't repairing enough, and vehicles are so squishy that it's completely necessary. So how did these vehicles get so squishy? Well, it's because there's some stuff that is really good at taking out these tanks. The tanks and the IFVs are very squishy because of the gadgets. The air vehicles are just overall kind of hard to use. The maps are pretty small. There's a little bit too much cover, and every single gun in the entire game deals damage to them. So the air vehicles are just not good. The transport choppers, gunners can't face forward, so it's really hard to win chopper 1v1s with it. The jets overall are just pretty squishy, and since the maps and stuff are so small, the jets are almost never a nuisance. So when I'm talking about like vehicles, I'm basically only talking about the tanks and the IFVs because those are the ones that can swing the game really hard in favor of one team or the other based on these engineer gadgets. Because the engineer gadgets are not going to be super impactful for most of the other vehicles. So the best gadget that I would run alongside the RPG is the tank mine. And there's one very specific reason. Everybody else is running this thing. So when you pick it up as an engineer, it gets added into your loadout and you can replace it for your team. If not everybody was running this, I don't think it would be as big of a deal to be running it yourself. But when you're running a different mine, you can't pull this move. So it's just super annoying that you just want to be running this so that you can replace the enemy's mines only. The tank mine is the easiest mine to spot, but it deals the most damage. So at the very worst, the enemy team has to deal with it. They have to take it out. They have to defuse it somehow. They have to do something about it. They have to shoot it out. They have to spot it. They have to use some drones to resource some drone battery to take it out. At the very least, it's going to take some resources to take out the tank mines. So they're almost always going to be good. They might get you killed when placing them because of the spots. I usually just try and throw them down in like a triangle-ish or a line. They just can't go very close to each other, so it's hard to get the right spots. I'll try and do it on an objective or close to the vehicle spawns, just on the street. I don't really want to be spending too much time thinking about the mines and trying to get to the perfect spot on the map to place them, because it generally ends up being a waste of time, and it's a big risk if I end up dying. So I'm usually more concerned about my positioning for taking the objective and not for positioning mines. So they're just not perfect. And it's kind of the same thing with this EOD bot, where I'd want to get the positioning myself with my own loadout and kit and own gun rather than this robot, even though this thing is really strong. When you see a vehicle, you can hide behind cover and get so much more information and basically get an extra life to be able to take this thing out. The tank mines that it drops are like okay for stunning the tank and distracting it, but really getting up close to it and hitting it with that repair torch can actually take out a tank. And a lot of tank drivers don't realize that it's happening to them, and you need to shoot the wally whenever you see it for the enemy team. And sometimes that alone can get you killed, because the threat of the EOD bot is real. Like, it can sneak up on you. It's very quiet. This thing is pretty good for sneaking around, and it basically just gives you an extra life. So it really depends on your play style. If you're the person that's super aggressive, the EOD bot's not going to be for you. But if you're a little bit more of a passive player and like to die a little bit less, this thing is going to be pretty good. It might be worth your time to get really good at the EOD bot. But all of these gadgets in this tier are incredibly high skilled. They take so much effort to learn how to do, so much time to perfect. The skill ceiling is so high. that this is the least confident tier I have, because I'm very confident in the assault rankings. It's a bad class. I'm pretty confident in the support and the recon rankings. But this tier itself within engineer is the least confident I have, because there's just certain playstyles, maps, and modes where it's very clear that one's better than the other, and it's hard to rank them amongst each other just because of how different they are and how useful they can be and how useless they are sometimes. So the next up I'm going to talk about is the SRA. In modes where there are no air vehicles, this thing's probably better than the RPG. You do get 5 of them as well, so you're not going to be having less rockets with that extra perk. It is a lot better for taking out ground vehicles from the front, but it does get you killed because then you're trying to shoot vehicles from the front. I usually would just rather get behind the vehicle to take it out, and then it's not as good because you can't hit it from the back. So it's a lot better in modes where you're like spawn trapped or you're trying to push the center objective and you're only looking one direction, maybe like breakthrough. But if you have the opportunity to constantly get behind IFVs and tanks, this is probably a worse rocket. Because it's just way worse at infantry, and because it doesn't shoot at air vehicles, I'm like not going to equip it when I like load in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be engineer now, and this map would be really good for the SRA, and it would be better than the RPG because there's no air vehicles. Like, I'm just not going to be doing that at the start of the game, so I'm usually just going to have the RPG equipped and then just leave it there. But this thing is good. It is annoying that you can't shoot it into the smoke and have it work, and the RPG can, so it does get countered sometimes. But the big deal to me is this thing is bad against infantry, and it lacks the versatility as the RPG. So I'm putting on the RPG. I'm wanting to take out infantry and air vehicles. It's a little bit better. But the SRA absolutely is better in so many situations. Next up, the aim-guided launcher. This is what I would be using to take out air vehicles. The RPG is a lot harder to hit the rockets. You kind of want to like hip fire in order to get the reticle right. The big problem with the aim-guided launcher is how slow the missile goes and how you can't hip fire it, so the actual time it takes to get off per rocket can be extremely long. So if you like hit fire it and then get the rocket in the air and then send up another rocket, it can track as well, but you're probably going to get killed if you're spending this much time standing out in the open trying to hit a helicopter. But this is definitely the one that you would use to hit helicopters. I would probably try and just find tow missiles on the map that are stationary, join an IFV or a main battle tank that has a tow missile. Those are the tow missiles that I'd be trying to use, but this tow missile is pretty good. You don't get the 5 rockets with the aim-guided launcher, and it's just so bad against vehicles that you're close to on the ground that I'm not going to be running it on certain maps and modes. I'm going to be running the RPG, but this thing is so easy to take out air vehicles that the second there's a nuisance of an air vehicle, or there's too many, and I need to be taking them out, I'd be wanting to switch to this. This thing is so fun, and it's such a good one to learn that if you're able to get really good with this thing, I could see this be easily being better than the RPG. Easily being better than the SRA. But I'm not as good with it, and I haven't taken the time to learn it, and it's extremely difficult to use if you're not using it to just take out helicopters from far away. It's really easy to aim guide the missile and hit things, but it's not easy to whip it out quickly and take out a tank and give 2 shots to the behind of it. So it's not as good as the RPG. I'm going to be running the RPG, but man, I'm so scared of this aim-guided launcher as well. You can do some shenanigans with it. Now, the ones that I would say have a strictly better version, but are still viable in some ways, starting off with the slam mine. The mines are pretty good. They're a lot harder to place than the tank mines, because you gotta maybe figure it out on a wall that could be a good spot. They're a lot harder to see, so it's probably a lot more likely to go off, but they don't deal as much damage. And the big deal is that when I'm running the slam mines, I can't be picking up the enemy tank mines and then replacing them. So it feels like I just get less mines per game. And since you get 3 of the slam mines and 3 of the tank mines, but the tank mines deal a whole lot more damage, you can take out a lot more vehicles and get a lot more kills with the tank mines. The slam mines still suffer from the exact same problem of the tank mines of you can't place them all super close together. So since they're annoying to place, I would much rather run the tank mines so that I can replace my enemy's tank mines. I'll just be throwing them on the objectives. Most of the good tank drivers are, when they take a half of their damage, they're just going to get out and repair, or they're going to find some way to disable the mines. They'll have like the gunner or a drone around them that's able to spot them, and they can just shoot at them. There's just so many ways that the really good tank drivers avoid mines and don't get lethally damaged by them, that I'm not super concerned with taking out bad tank drivers that are just flying through without like crawling and making sure that they don't set the mines off immediately. But since the tanks can crawl, I'm basically always just holding the crawl button whenever I'm in a tank and going super slow, because it makes it where any mine you don't see just won't get set off. You still need to take them out though, because they can still get shot and like deal damage to you. But the mines overall aren't as effective as the launchers at taking out vehicles, and vehicles are so squishy in general that the mines are just not good. And that's why the EOD bot might actually be the one to be running instead of the slam mine, and I would be running a better version of that. So if you could run multiple launchers, obviously I'd be doing that. But since you can only run one, I'd be running the RPG. I would not be running the slam mine, and I would be running the tank mines or the EOD bot, which is why I have them in the tier above. But the slam mines are still pretty good. This class is really good. So next up, the Stinger. This thing is not good at getting kills, but it is great at keeping a helicopter away from you. So if you're just trying to get air vehicles out of your way, scare them off, keep them on the edges of the map, this thing is incredibly useful. But for actually getting kills with it, it's just not good at all. You'd almost need like the targets to be painted, and there just isn't enough painting going on in the game for you to be running this thing, and so you're not going to be relying on its ability to lock on anything. Locking on, it just takes too long. It exposes you, it gets you shot, you have to stand there, like almost still, without any cover. It's a bad idea to try and do these lock-on stuff. I don't want to be like looking up to the sky with a Stinger, and anybody who's or anywhere around me can shoot at me. I'm usually loving it whenever I see people looking up to the sky with a launcher. They're easy kills. So this is a bad playstyle that I'm genuinely not trying to do, ever. But I'm also incredibly scared of them when I'm in the air vehicles. They're incredibly annoying. They work. They 100% chase you off until air vehicles have to get their flares reset. Maybe if the air vehicles were more oppressive, this would be a bigger deal, but I'm usually trying to shoot down choppers with the aim-guided launcher because they can't really see it coming. The Stinger is a little bit more avoidable for the good pilots, but it keeps them off the map. But, I mean, we're like 3 months into the game here, and there's still no air radar. So, I don't really think that there's going to be some huge buff to air vehicles in the future that makes the Stinger viable. If I'd want to be learning to hit vehicles with the RPG or the aim-guided launcher from the air. Those are the two things that I'd want to be hitting air vehicles with, not the Stinger. Last up in this tier is the acoustic mine. I definitely haven't figured this one out, but since you only get one mine, it's really hard to justify over the tank mines and the slam mines. I think it's a lot more consistent at going off, and there's a lot better places you can place it. It can be helpful for you 1v1ing a tank. You can kind of get them to push you, you deal damage with this mine, and then hit it with an RPG or two, and it actually gets taken out. There's a certain play style that could work for this, but I would definitely be running the tank mines for the ability to swap them and place them back down. Because you're only getting one of this thing, it's just so much worse than the tank mines, and I would probably be considering it pretty close to the slam mine, where like it's just not good enough at taking out a whole vehicle, and there aren't enough people running it that, while they are super good in some situations, and there's just obviously great placements for the acoustic mines, I'm just not going to be running it or learning how to be doing it. It's not strong enough for me to want to perfect this part of my game, and I would much rather be spending the time learning better tank mine spots to place, learning the EOD bot better, learning the aim-guided launcher or the SRAW launcher better. Like, I'd be wanting to learn those gadgets because those ones are still ridiculously difficult to use. And I don't really want to be learning this one just because there's a better version. But it's 100% situations where it's better. So now I'm going to talk about the supply crate, which it's unique, you know. It's got that going for it. It does something that no other thing does. It can give vehicles more ammo and health, sort of. But it's like really squishy if they drive over it, and you have to like place it perfectly next to them. There almost has to be some communication to make this thing work. If you're always in a vehicle, you might actually be running this thing. Because with the repair tool, it actually does something when you're always in a vehicle. And it might just be a last resort of, oh, I'm out of ammo. It would be really nice to have this thing right now. And it actually is useful because you're sitting inside the vehicle the whole game. So if you're like vehicle main, maybe you're going to be using this thing. I am not, so I am not using it. You can use this thing as like a way worse deployable cover, and maybe like peak places you're not supposed to, as like a small ladder. You can use it as cover and pick it back up. But overall, this thing is way worse than the other gadgets. You'd have to be taking off the EOD bot or the tank mines in order to do this. Ooh, I would not do that. I would not take off the tank mines of the EOD bot. I think both of those are just too valuable to have on my kit to be running this thing ever. It's not very good, but since it's so unique, you're actually going to be running it when you're always in a vehicle. This last one I'm going to talk about is unplayable. This Javelin long-range launcher, what is this thing? At least it has like a thermal scope, so you could maybe use it as a thermal, but it takes so long to lock on that you're basically going to get killed if you try and set off a second rocket. There's no way that you're going to get a second rocket off. Getting the first rocket off is already difficult, and it barely does damage. The fact that you can't use this in close range makes it unplayable. You cannot run this thing at all because you can't use it in close range, and it's not good enough in long range to ever make it that sort of playstyle. So never run this thing. This is one of the worst gadgets in the entire game. I don't even hope it gets a buff because the launchers are already too good in general. I kind of hope the other ones get a nerf to like maybe put this one more in line. But man, this thing is just going to get you killed using it. Don't learn to play with this thing. Learn the different launchers because they are so incredibly difficult and skillful. And the ceiling to master them is so high that even like engineer main people aren't going to be perfect at all of these gadgets. And there's just so much you probably look back on in each game and like been like, oh, I could have placed a mine here. I could have used this life. I went this life without placing my mines. Oh, I should have EOD bot here. Oh, I should have switched to the SRA because there's all these vehicles. Oh, the RPG wasn't as good as the aim guided launcher. I spent too much time shooting at helicopters. There's so many different ways that you could go about this class. It's the hardest one to choose for your gadgets, but I do think that the RPG's versatility makes it where it's a set and forget one if you're only going to be using one, so that's why it's in the top tier. But all the ones in the second tier are just as good in a lot of situations, and since they're just bad in other ones, the RPG is better. Maybe in the future with some more playtime on some of these other gadgets, I'll feel a little bit differently about them, but right now, when I'm in a vehicle, I am not scared of slam mines, stingers, acoustic mines, the long-range launcher, but I'm scared of the aim-guided launcher in a helicopter. I'm scared of the SRA in a land vehicle. I'm scared of the EOD bot in a tanker and IFE. I'm scared of mines when I'm driving a vehicle. I'm scared of the enemy having a repair guy behind their vehicle. I'm scared of an RPG getting behind me. There's just so many things that I'm scared of from the engineer class that it's such a good class for all of the vehicle modes. Don't be running it in the infantry only.